release when prosecutors found flaws in his case and moved to reverse his conviction. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Now a very different outcome for a different convicted murderer.
The planned firing squad execution of condemned killer Brad Sigmund will be the first carried out in the U.S. in 15 years. He was convicted of killing his ex-girlfriend's parents in 2001 and chose the firing squad over two other methods in South Carolina, the electric chair and lethal injection.
As Fox's Tanya J. Powers, in about 9 hours, Sigmund will be put in a chair, a hood over his head, a target placed on his chest, and he'll be shot to death. Idaho's considering making the firing squad its primary execution method. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
Lawrence County depends on WDXE News, on the air since 1951. This is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
And it's time to welcome Stan Pierchoski into the studio. All right. What happened there? That wasn't supposed to happen. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. It sounds like some good intro music, right?
It was close, yeah. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to do that. But anyway, Stan, good morning. And how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, you're on.
I'm just a little hot.
Are you a little hot?
Can you do something on your end?
It's actually your headphone
okay.
volume. That's
Okay.
what it is.
Okay.
Then you can try that. I think it's this one right here.
I don't know which is up and down. Oh, there you go. Okay.
You got that?
Yeah, okay. Oh, no.
Is that better?
Boy, it changes a lot.
Yeah. It's
yeah,
touchy.
that's good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right,
I hear you
good.
just fine. But your headphone volume is what you have to watch sometimes. So there you go. All right.
Oh, yeah. Well, good morning. No, I'm doing fine. It's Friday again.
Yes,
You know,
it's Friday again.
Been another week, and we had a strange week in my life. We've had I had a family member still visiting after my daughter and her children went back home. So we're still there, and we had a death in the family the night before last.
I'm sorry.
My my wife's stepfather-in-law, and it was. So we're going through all that. So it happens.
Yeah.
The things, estate planning happens to the estate planner.
Life happens.
It sure does.
Life happens.
And it's
Now, are they local or?
yeah, they're down in North Alabama,
North-
Athens area.
Yeah.
So
that's
local
local.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
They and again, a lot of times when we talk about estate planning, we tell horror stories about people who don't have any planning. These folks, came to me back in 20 or 21, and we did a comprehensive plan. And it looks like everything's going to go the way it's supposed to. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's you can learn. You can learn about estate planning by success stories too.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't have to be the horror stories where somebody doesn't do anything
That's right.
and everything goes wrong. So,
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You got a seminar coming?
I do. It's I guess 2 weeks from tomorrow. It's the 22nd of March, and that's a Saturday. And it's we always do our Saturday seminars at 10 o'clock. And it seems like we're doing a lot more Saturday ones than the Thursday ones, but that's usually by popular demand. But it's we call it Wills, Trust, and the Nursing Home, and it's going to be at the American Legion in Pulaski this time. So we were here on the last one. We're going to be over in Giles County at the American Legion, which is right off the square, a couple blocks. But if you need a physical address, it's 416 Legion Drive in Pulaski, and your GPS will get you right there if you need to. And again, that's what we talk about. We talk about wills and trusts, and how not to go broke in long-term care, which is on people's mind. And one thing I'll keep people apprised of as we learn what's going on, and that there's proposed changes to. Now, I probably don't do much with I don't do much with Medicare, but if I know of the changes, I'll pass them on. But there may end up being some changes to the Medicaid system. Remember the Medicaid Act is a federal act, but each state has their own version of it.
Yes.
Ours is called TennCare, and the states have all 50 different sets of rules, but they all have to stay within the federal act.
Yeah.
I look at it this way: if you have this big bubble, and it's called the Medicaid Act of 1965, right?
Right.
There's these 50 little bubbles inside of it, and those bubbles can do whatever they want to do as long as they stay inside the big bubble, as far as the rules go. And some of those bubbles, the little bubbles, actually overlap because some states are similar, but they are all completely different.
Okay.
I mean, in other words, you got some states that are what we call income cap states or minimum maximum range states, different rules that apply. Some of them are very, very different, but a lot of them, I'm going to say about 26 or 27, fall in the category of being pretty similar. But they all have their own little nuances, the nuances. So,
Right.
But I'll keep people apprised of that as we see what's going to happen. With our new Department of Government Efficiency, they claim no government agency is going to go unlooked at.
Yeah.
And they should, because I'm sure there's a lot of not so well spent money.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I hope they look into the efficiency of it from a personnel standpoint. That's where I see some issues, not so much with the money, but
Yeah.
we'll see. I know there's been some talk about these block grants in Medicaid, but that's nothing new from this election. That's something that's been in the works for a while. There's been talk about that for probably almost a decade.
Right.
So, but they may implement them because they may be, this organization may think that's a good way to do it, save money.
Right.
So we'll see. But meanwhile, if you're dealing with that, let me know, because it still remains to be a difficult thing to get through. But on that note, this week, because when it's Friday, I have to think back. Monday seems like another lifetime ago.
Yesterday seems like a lifetime ago to me.
This week, 3 approvals, and 2 of them were problematic ones that they said, no, we're going to have a hearing. We're digging our heels in. We disagree. We're going to argue this to the court. And so we set a date and everything. And then we just magically got an email and a letter in the mail saying, we approve. They just throw in the towel.
They just threw in the towel.
So 3 of them in one week, which is a little unusual, but 2 of them were kind of hanging out there for a while. And so that's good. It's always a good day to call the family and let them know we've crossed the finish line. Their loved one is approved, and we know what we have to pay every month. We know what they're going to pay every month, and it's taken care of. So
Yeah.
So anyway,
Very interesting.
So yeah, did I hear before we got on here that was it North or South Carolina? They're implementing the death penalty by firing squad.
I just got a very small glimpse of that as we were trying to get, because had my mind on something else, but I did hear that.
I thought it was one of the Carolinas.
So it's in the United States. I thought that was somewhere else.
Well, maybe I might have missed that. I thought I heard that, but I
don't know.
We'll have to listen to the news after this hour and see if they talk about it.
I haven't heard of a death by firing squad in quite some time.
Well, I guess I don't want to get off on this, but in our country, the standard is our 8th Amendment, where it talks about no cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah.
And so, they think about the different capital punishment methods, and they have to look at them from a humane standpoint.
Yeah.
And firing squad probably is not a bad one when you think, as far as because
there's not a good one.
I know the electric chair was certainly not.
Yeah.
And the lethal injection, I think there's a fair amount of awareness as far as that goes too. But I don't know. It just maybe one of the better things, except for the leading up to it part, was something like, remember the old guillotine?
Oh my gosh.
That would be certainly a.
I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. But that's history has borne all this out, and if you read any of or know of any of your history like that, the capital punishment methods were, what they were. There's nothing. There wasn't, in my opinion, there's not a good one. There's none that I want to see anyway. None that I want to experience.
That's for sure. But we won't get off on that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But
while you mentioned the Medicaid and and if I might,
sure.
You've gone over this, but it's been a while back, and I remember being surprised in that I learned the difference between Medicaid and Medicare because it's confusing. And so I remember us talking about that, and I thought, what, if you don't mind, you might want to review that again, because it was enlightening to me. Okay. I couldn't, at the time, I'm thinking, well, I don't think I knew that.
I'm glad to, and I know Joe was.
Yeah,
he's at that point.
He's at that point, yeah.
And that was actually good advice from the caller. I mean, because you have a 7-month window to go through to do that. You have the month of your birthday, 3 months before that month, and 3 months after that month. So when you turn 65, you got this 7-month window. And if you don't do it in that window, it gets a little more complicated to do it afterward.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that I don't know that I can speak to very well, but you have to. You kind of end up in a different category all of a sudden.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, but as far as Medicare and Medicaid, I can't hardly believe, Jeff, that you confused the two. I mean, they're only 2 letters of the alphabet different, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. They are very different on what they do, and they are way, way different on what they will pay for. So you got Medicare. And, I don't do a lot with Medicare. We do some because we talk about people going into long-term care, being in rehabilitation where Medicare pays for a certain length of time. And,
right.
People talk about their 100 days and stuff. So we don't really deal with that. That's just something that exists in the stuff we do. But the Medicare system is a federal act, came out in 1965, the Medicare Act, And it works like insurance, just like insurance, and it's the same everywhere. So if you're 60 years old and you have Blue Cross Blue Shield or something like that,
Right.
you pay premiums and you pay deductible if you go into the hospital, and certain things are covered or not covered.
Right.
When you turn 65 and get on Medicare, it's the same thing. It's just like insurance, okay? And now instead of being Blue Cross Blue Shield, it's your Medicare. Now Medicare has broken down into some subcategories. They have Medicare Part A, which is the medical and hospitalization and doctor stuff, and everybody gets that, okay? Then there's Medicare Part B, which you have to pay for, and it's on a sliding scale. It's kind of based on your income. So if you're paying your Medicaid Part B, and suddenly it changes numbers or something, it's based on your income.
Okay.
A sliding scale.
Sure.
But there's some things that Part A and Part B won't pay for.
Okay.
And then people buy supplements to fill that gap.
That's right.
And then a classic example is when people are somebody breaks their leg, goes to the hospital, and they discharge them to a nursing home to rehabilitate, and they're there for, Medicare pays 100% of that for 20 days. But then after the 20 days, it's an 80-20 split. And so a lot of people are never out of pocket for that because their supplement kicks in and pays that percentage split.
Okay.
And so you buy these supplements, and then there's also the Part D, which is the prescription drugs. And I get a little out of my lane when I start talking about that because there is a blue million supplements out there that you can buy.
Really?
And I don't know much about Medicaid Advantage, but I do know it is. I'm never going to get it because it has a lot of problems from what I've read. But
Really?
I really couldn't speak on them in any detail. But anyway, so that it works just like insurance. You pay premiums, you get them every month or every 3 months. And if you go in, there's like a copay.
Right.
And so it works just like insurance. It works everywhere. Every state in the union is the same because the states have nothing to do with Medicare. It's federally run.
Okay. Okay.
Now, Medicaid is something completely different. And Medicaid is the only thing that pays for long-term care.
Okay.
Now, this is where, I usually mention this briefly in my seminars, and this is where, when I say that, usually somebody will jump up like they're sitting on a spring and say, whoa, wait a minute, Aunt Gertrude fell and got hurt and went to hospital. They sent her to the nursing home, and she was there for 30 days, 60 days, and Medicare paid every bit of that. So
Yep.
Medicare does pay long-term care is what they say. And they say, no, that's not long-term care. That is what we call rehabilitation.
Right.
Because she's going to rehabilitate from this injury or this sickness, and they will pay for that. Well, they pay for everything for the first 20 days.
Yes.
And they will pay this 80-20 split up to day 100.
Yes.
But they will not pay anything past that under any circumstance, whether you rehabilitate or not. So a couple
What's
things here.
the thing behind that though is if it goes 100 days, then they consider it a long term. Is that right?
That's right. If they're going to stay there because of that, then that's considered long-term care.
Okay.
Long-term care that we talk about is you're there and you're going to stay there. You're not there till you get better and then come back out.
Right.
And it's confusing because they send you to a nursing home facility for rehabilitation. So
Yes.
it sounds like you're in a nursing home. I mean, physically you are, but you're not in this Medicaid system or whatever that state's Medicaid system is. Ours is TennCare, right? You're not in that system yet. You're rehabilitating. And the reason for that is, if you break your leg and get a new hip or whatever you're doing and you're trying to get your gait back and learn how to walk on the thing, it's probably thousands of dollars a day to rehab in a hospital. It's only hundreds of dollars a day when you do it in the facility, so it's cheaper. And you get the more of a rehab kind of attention there. So that does not mean Medicare pays long-term care. That can be very confusing.
Yes.
But if you are going to be there for a while, the only thing that will pay for that is Medicaid. Now, Medicaid is also a federal act. It came out July the 29th or July the 30th of 1965. It was just July passed. It was 59 years old, so it's going to be 60 years old this July. Okay.
Wow.
And people, majority of folks still don't. I mean, majority of professionals still don't understand how it works.
Wow.
But anyway, and now that's a little different. They have the Medicaid Act, which is the structure of the thing, but it's governed by the individual states. Each state has their own version of Medicaid. Like I said, they can't just carte blanche and do whatever they want. They're bound by the federal act, but they can do whatever they want within the federal act. And there's a lot of different things that the states can vary. And so, but of course, the federal act mandates certain things that they have to do, like in a state recovery program to try to
Right.
help pay for it, and certain things like that. So in our version, it's called TennCare. Every state's got a cute little name for it. Some of them, I mean, I think Alabama's is called Alabama Medicaid, which is not very creative. but you know,
Well, they keep things simple.
that's right. But I'm just saying that, you know, California, you get CalMed or Mass Care, TennCare. You know, that's
Right.
They all have a name for it. And so that is a whole different set of rules because that pays for long-term care.
Right.
And that's the thing where you have to become medically eligible, income eligible, and resource eligible. Resource meaning asset eligible.
Right.
And those are the three categories you got to deal with. And so does that help with the understanding?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. And just to review, I mean, to know that again, because I remember when we went through that a while back, I was kind of fascinated by the difference in between the two, and no wonder people get confused that Medicare is paying for it. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
And they're really long-term care. They're really not.
And you know, here's a mistake people make you know, I'm not getting down on folks for making a mistake. The thing about it being two letters of the alphabet difference. I'm being cynical.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
How could you not confuse it? Is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of folks have told me things like, "Well, I've got Medicare, but I got a long-term care rider. My Medicare will pay for it." And I'm telling you, it does not. I've heard that many times, or they brought me something and say, I have this, and it's got a long-term care rider. If I go to a nursing home, it's going to pay for it. And I've looked at it, and it's not there. It is not there. There is a thing called long-term care insurance. You can get that.
Yes.
But it is not part of Medicare that will pay. You can't opt into something that'll pay for it. It's not what the program does.
Can you speak, or would you like to speak to the long-term care insurance thing? Is that a
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just a form of insurance, okay? Now,
Okay.
it used to be, even back before I started estate planning, it used to be probably a couple of hundred outfits that sold long-term care insurance.
Yeah.
Now it's less than a dozen in the entire United States. And I deal with a couple of them. But it's insurance that you can buy that if you become eligible to be in a nursing home, okay, same eligibility standards as our TennCare, I'll just use Tennessee, TennCare. And in other words, you can't just go to the nursing home and hang out and expect your insurance to pay for it. You got to be there. You got to be medically needy and all that. You got to be there. Now, you don't have to qualify for the income or the assets yet.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what this was for, is to keep you from selling assets to pay for your care.
Right.
So if you're medically needy, in other words, medically the doctors say you need to be in a facility, right? You have to be here.
Yeah.
So if you're medically needy, then this thing kicks in and it pays a certain amount of money. Now I've seen them pay anywhere from like $130 a day to almost $200 a day.
Okay.
You know, of course, now the bill in the nursing home is more like $300 a day. So, and you can buy higher or lower coverage, but I'm not aware of where any of them that sell 100% coverage.
Yeah.
Now, somebody may look at that and say, well, my dad's got this one. And now some of the older policies do that. They're almost unlimited. And if you got one of those, man, hang on to it.
Yeah.
But if you go get some today, you won't find one that does that.
Okay.
And it's only for a term of years. And there's no need for it to be any longer than 5 years. Okay. So some people, to save money, they'll only do it for 3 years with the hope that if I go in a nursing home, it'll be at least 2 years from now before that happens.
Yeah.
But if you get for 5 years, then if that ever happens, what it does is it pays a portion of the bill.
Okay.
And let's say your bill is $10,000 a month, which is about the average.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say you got about $2,000 worth of income. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got to come up with the other 8 out of other assets that you own.
Right.
And so this is designed, and typically will pay anywhere from 60 to 70%, or maybe better. That's what we see about. And so they'll pay, in addition to your income, they will pay this 60% of the bill. So now you're only paying about $1,000 or so, maybe $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And what that does is it pays for your care and keeps you from possibly selling other assets to pay for your care, because you've cut. The rate of bleeding is now much mitigated. You're only paying $1,000 or $2,000, and that's really heavily dependent on your income. So that's what the long-term care insurance does, and it will pay, and we deal with that quite a bit. I've seen quite a few people that actually have that we've dealt with in a nursing home.
Yeah.
And it's a grand tool to have. So if you have it, I would say hang on to it. Now, the only problem with that is, as far as insurance goes, it is relatively expensive.
That's what I was going to ask.
It's nice. If you compare it to other insurance, it's kind of costly. If you compare it to long-term care, it's a bargain.
Yeah.
But here's a guide. It's kind of all over the place, but I've got it myself. I won't mention the carrier, but my wife and I have long-term care, and the premium, the annual premium. Okay, you can pay that by the month, but my annual premium is about 1 month in the cost in the nursing home.
Okay.
So that's kind of high for insurance.
Yeah.
But if it's only 1 month, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it's cost. So if you have it, you need to hang on to it. Because here's why it's such a great advantage. If you have long-term care insurance, you can, and you do one of our asset protection trusts and get these big ticket items in there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some of the best protection you can get.
Yeah.
Now the problem with long-term care insurance is this: they won't give it to you if you're too old. And there's an age limit. It's somewhere around 78 to 82. It kind of depends on the carrier.
Right.
And if you have any health issues at any age, they do a pretty involved physical. I remember when my wife and I did ours, they came to my office and we had a pretty involved physical examination and questionnaire. And I remember answering some of those questions thinking, okay, they're probably going to
knock you out of this one.
If I give them the answer to this one, they're probably going to can me. But, I mean, that's them assessing the risk of you. You know what I mean? So if you have a lot of health problems, they may not give it to you because they don't have to insure you. You know what I mean?
True.
It's entirely up to them. If they think you're too much of a risk, they won't do it. So if you're if you know you're heading for the nursing home because you got a lot of problems, and you say I'm going to run out and get long-term care insurance, they probably won't.
Probably not going to get it.
Or if they do, it will be so ridiculously expensive because the insurance company is designed to not take risk.
Well, they're in the business to make money, not lose money.
Well, that's exactly right. But I mean, again, it's not it's a good tool to have. But I find less than 10% of the people, not less than 5, have it.
Yeah.
So if you got it, hang on to it. Because, some of the strategies we do, like let's take the asset protection trust. Remember we talk about you get this trust, you put property into it, and I say put your property into this trust and stay the heck out of the nursing home for 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if you have, that's a strategy called divest, which is putting it in the trust, right?
Right.
Divest and wait. So you're putting it in,
yes,
hoping you don't go into the nursing home in the next 5 years, right?
Right.
We never know what's going to happen, but that's the plan. Well, there's another strategy I call divest and insure. And that's if you divest and you've got long-term care insurance, now if we go into long-term care with the asset protection trust, we only have to deal with the difference between how long it's been in the trust and the 5 years.
Right.
So if you put your property in this trust and 3 years later things go south and you have to go into care, well, the insurance kicks in and we only got to deal with it for the 2 years that are left.
Right.
Whereas if you just have long-term care and you don't have the asset protection trust and you go into care, right away. It's going to need to pay. It's going to pay for 5 years.
Right.
So it's a great tool if you got it.
Interesting.
And don't wait too long to get it, but it's a real balancing act. If you get it in your 40s, you're going to be paying a lot of premiums for a long number of years.
Right.
And then if you ever go in and you do an economic analysis of what I've paid and what I'm getting, it's going to be a little lopsided, right?
Right.
But if you wait too long, they won't give it to you. So when's the best time to get it? I don't know. I'm going to say a good time to get it is somewhere between, I'd say 55 and 65, and
it's a calculated risk, isn't it?
If your health is
or
good,
assessment, I should say.
If your health is good, I don't know if I'd wait much longer than that.
Yeah.
If your health is poor, you might want to go into try and check it out a little sooner.
Yeah.
You never know with that stuff. And then there's this. It's expensive insurance, and you may never go to the nursing home. So it's like any other insurance. It could end up being money down a rat hole because you never used it. But that's the whole purpose of it. And I'm not fostering or championing the insurance industry here, but it's like you said, it's a risk. It's the what if.
It's the what if.
Because if the what if gets you, it will wipe you out financially.
Yeah.
Just like if you drive without car insurance and you have in a wreck and you cause somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage or medical, it'll wipe you out. That one act will clean you out. Will clean out a lifetime of wealth. Yeah. So it's the same concept here, but and that's the whole idea of preserving assets is what we're trying to do.
Well, if you utilize those services correctly, then you're properly protecting your belongings, your assets, and your the future of your family. By doing that kind of thing, which is a lot of what you've talked about every time we're together.
Exactly. And we're dealing with that in the family now. The plan now it's the my wife's mother, my mother-in-law, is still alive, so it's the death of the first of the couple.
Yes.
So not a whole lot happens, and I get this call a lot, and this might be a good time to visit that because this stuff happens to everybody, including me.
Right.
But a lot of times my trust clients will call me and say, my husband died or my wife died,
right,
or the children will call me. They have one of your trusts. What do we do? Well, when you have a trust plan, it's a joint trust between husband and wife.
Yeah.
There's really very little, if anything, to do at the first death. There's no probate involved. Of course, that's what the trust does. It avoids probate.
Right.
Now, if all the assets have been jointly owned, which if you've been married any length of time is usually the case, right?
Yes.
There's nothing to be done because it's not like people say, well, if I pass away, I want it all to go to my wife. Well, in a trust, it doesn't all pass to your wife. It's kind of all there in the first place. So let me explain that. If you have no plan, but you maybe have you both have wills, we call them reciprocal wills because each will will say everything I have goes to my spouse, but if my spouse predeceases me, then it goes to the kids in equal shares or something like that, right?
Right.
Well, nothing in a trust. You're both joint trustors of the trust, which means you both own everything in the trust, right? And so husband has access to all of it, and the wife has access to all of it anytime they want. They both own it all, right?
Okay.
You don't own your half and the other one own the other half. You
Right.
both own it all, like your joint bank account.
Right.
So you own it all. Now, at the death of the first of the couple, nothing passes to the survivor. They just now only have the one owner, which is exactly what they owned before the death happened.
Yeah.
So nothing's really changed. So there's certainly nothing to do.
Interesting.
And now, when you think about it, people may have reciprocal wills, but if everything they own is joint, then there'll be no probate at all at the first death.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is at the second death, there's definitely probate. Because remember, anything you own in your individual name has to be probated. Well, if it's owned jointly with your spouse at the first death, it passes to that spouse either by right of survivorship or joint ownership,
Yeah.
or beneficiary, right?
Yeah.
So there's no need to probate that. But at the second death, everything's now owned by the surviving spouse, and most assuredly is going through probate.
Right.
Where when you have a trust plan, there's nothing to do at the first death, and at the second death, the trust administers the property and not the probate system.
Yeah.
So it's a grand tool, in my opinion, which is why I'm in this business. But
Yeah, it is a grand tool, and the more I learn about it, the more I think, oh wow, everybody should do this.
well, and it's procrastination. I get it.
Yeah.
And how many times I probably say this all the time. I sound like a broken record. People procrastinate this, and I'm not trying to scold you.
Yeah.
I procrastinated it myself. I get it. That's why I get it. I've been there. I've procrastinated it on myself, and I'm totally convinced that the reason people procrastinate on this or any other thing that they kind of keep kicking the can down the road on is they don't have a firm feeling for it or they don't understand their options. So they just don't know what to do. Right? So if you don't know what to do and you don't understand your options, I get it. Because if you do something, you don't have a very warm, fuzzy feeling like you're doing the thing you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
But if you learn about your options and find out what you can do, and then look at the options, which one's best for my family, which is what happens with our seminars. You hear a lot of things you probably never heard before,
Right.
or at least you hear things that were cleared up from things you heard before that weren't all exactly correct.
Yeah.
And in my experience, 99% of the people that come to my seminars feel one of the options is a great fit for their family. And then now, when you feel like, hey, here's this option. Let's just say we didn't know. I don't even know what a trust is. I've heard the word. I just thought rich people did that.
Right.
We hear that a lot, right?
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
And
That's
so
right.
you find out what a trust does, and you say, that's a neat tool. It avoids probate. I get to make sure that exactly how I want my property divided up is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's guaranteed. It's enforceable, and all the other things. It not going to take a year and a half. Not going to cost a fortune to get it done. All this, and you say that's a great plan. I really like that. Now they don't procrastinate anymore because they have an option that fits. They understand it. Now they're very comfortable in making a decision to go forward with that. So
Absolutely.
I really think the procrastination is based on just not making an informed decision. You just don't have enough information to make a good decision, and so you don't make the decision at all.
Right. Right.
It's kind of like if there's something, you want to fix something on your car, and there's like 10 different YouTubes, and each one tells you how to do something differently.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be indecisive for a while.
Well, that's why it pays to consult with someone like yourself, who has a lot of knowledge in the field in this field to kind of wade through your particular issues. Everybody's got different possessions, different circumstances, different sized families, and all the things that they want to do. So it just you have to find the right mix of plans for you.
Here's a way I make that simpler for you. You know, I'm an attorney, and the attorney industry, let's face it, has a pretty bad rep.
Sometimes.
I mean, hopefully I feel like I don't contribute to that, but people are reluctant to go talk to an attorney, or have had bad experiences or something like that. So, here's the way I do it.
What was it that said 98% of the lawyers make the other 2% look bad?
I haven't heard that one, but I kind of like it.
You can have that.
That's like the one. Well, we'll get into lawyer jokes. Right?
We can do real estate agent jokes too. I promise.
What's one about what do you call a bus that goes over a cliff with 2 empty seats? A bus full of lawyers with 2 empty seats that goes over a cliff?
No, what?
A rotten shame.
A rotten shame. Yeah. Oh man.
Anyway, here's what I do for folks. Maybe make that easier. It's not exactly why I do it, but it works out that way.
Yeah.
If you're interested in this and you say, I really don't want to schedule an appointment with a lawyer, he's going to charge me for every second he speaks to me. It's a stuffy, intimidating environment. I don't even know the right questions to ask, and I don't want to look foolish because I don't, something like that. For me, don't worry about that. I would highly suggest you come to my seminar. That's low key. That's very informal.
Yeah.
Real loosey goosey. You can walk in. If you don't like it in the middle of it and get up and walk out, do so. I mean, don't bar the door or make it. Yeah.
Right.
But come listen to what we have to say. And there's no sale. I don't do any sales pressures. I mean, I do this for a living. And so, of course, part of my goal is that if you want to go forward, that you choose me to go forward with. But I don't try to talk you into anything and don't talk you out of anything. We talk about what's available for you to do.
Sure.
And then even at the seminar, it's kind of superficial because we only have like an hour to an hour and 15, 20 minutes or so. But we hit the highlights of stuff and let you know that there are options that you can do.
Right.
And then if that gets your interest and you want to hear more about talk about your family dynamics, because we talk about what's typically what the trusts are, what the wills do, what the trusts do, what the asset protection trust does. We talk about that. Now, usually people leave there leaning one direction or the other.
Right.
One of the things I talked about. Now, if you want to talk more about that, because we don't get into, we got a lot of people at these seminars. I don't get into the problems that your kids have, and this kid's a spendthrift, and this one over here, you're worried about who that person married, and
right.
So if you want to talk about your own family dynamics, then I offer what we call family vision meeting, and that's where we will sit down, and those things are almost always as much as 2 hours long. They're rarely below an hour and a half, but they're 2 hours of my time, and we will sit and talk about you and your family and your concerns, what it is you want to get accomplished for estate planning. Like, okay, I got this property, and here's how I want it to go, and I want to make sure if it goes to this kid, it's protected from this or that, or whatever,
Right.
And so everybody has these unique family dynamics,
right?
And that's when we could do a deep dive into that. Okay, now I offer that time at no cost if you've attended the seminar.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's a nice
Now, I also
deal.
offer it if you've viewed one of my videos of the seminar. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now, those I give out pretty much by invitation. If you can't make the seminar, or you signed up for one and you had to miss it,
right?
Or if you can't wait till the next one, let's say somebody says, "Man, we're going on vacation this weekend, and I want to get something in place before then." I mean, if you can't wait, we send you a record. It's kind of like an evergreen version of it.
Right.
It's just a PowerPoint but it's on YouTube, and you can watch it. And actually, there's an advantage to that because you can start it and stop it if you want to.
Yeah.
Go over something, or stop and make a bowl of popcorn so you can watch. But if you've done that, if you either come to the seminar or you've watched one, that's an incentive I offer, the family vision meeting at no cost. Now, if you walk in off the street, what we call a cold meeting, and you just want to talk to me about the difference between a will and a trust, I have 3 women in my office that you will not get past without paying for my time.
Yeah.
they guard my time jealously, and that's their job. And they, it's an incentive. And the reason I do that is this: it's beneficial to you as much as to me.
Right.
I'm offering the seminar at no cost. I call it a free educational seminar. I like to focus on the word educational. The people coming like to focus on the word free. But you can come, and when we get to that meeting, You have already heard the options. You're
Right.
already kind of leaning in one
Yeah.
direction. You may have a bunch of questions about that, but you're kind of leaning on that. Now, when we sit down and have the family vision meeting, it is so much more productive because we hit the road running. We don't sit down and say, well, gosh, what? I never heard of trust. Tell me what the difference between a will and a trust. I talk about all that at the seminar. And so I offer that at no cost. You can hear that to your heart's delight at the seminar. But if we're going to sit down and, so if you have come to that and you're leaning in that direction and you want to hear more about it specifically about you and your family, that meeting is very productive.
Yes.
Because if I don't, it's like giving the seminar to you, just you and me doing the seminar.
Yeah.
And I can't, my time is too precious to do that too many times. So if somebody wants to do that, I'll do that, but they don't get the incentive I offer.
Right.
And again, it works very great even for you as well as it does for me. Our time is very well spent during the vision meeting. Then at the end of the vision meeting, if you just decide it's not for you, I don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Actually, I like the fact that you've made a decision and it was an informed decision.
Absolutely.
And sometimes people have made the decision, and by golly, I say to them, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. This is probably not a good fit. Now, it's usually a good fit for most people, or something that we do is.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that
But
someone could benefit from
Yeah,
it.
but it just depends on those circumstances. But,
Right.
But I don't mind that. I stay busy enough. If it doesn't go through, it doesn't go through. And I don't want to. I'm not the kind of attorney that says you need this trust here. Sign this. Don't worry about what it says.
Right.
I've already made all those decisions for you. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I want you involved in the decision-making process, at least to the extent where you understand it enough to know that this is what I want,
Right.
or this is what I don't want.
Yeah.
I got some people, they hear about the asset protection trust, and we get talking, they say, I think I want the revocable living trust. I just don't like the fact that I have to give up access to the principal when we have a little bit of restrictions on how we can get the property when you put it in the asset protection trust.
Right.
You don't get creditor protection without giving something up. So you're giving up this access to principal to the property. And some people say, for many reasons, I just don't like it. I openly admit I'm kind of a control person, and I don't like losing any control over what I own. Or I'm a little young in life, a little early in my life to be worried about that, so I don't want it. But you're making the decision not to do that particular trust, but you say the revocable living trust is a perfect fit.
Right.
So that's what this is all about. If you're thinking, let me just say this: I get these little cards in the mail sometimes for hearing aid. I don't know how they know I don't know how they know I can't hear very well, but I think my wife must have called them or something.
Yeah.
But and it's like come over and we'll take you over to Legends and we'll give you a meal.
Yeah.
And now, I'm not really bashing it, but that's a pure sales pitch,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't do it that way. There's no free meal when you come to the seminar. We have some light refreshments, but no free meal. I'm there to give you information.
Right.
And it works because we usually fill the place with people that want to hear this.
Sure.
Okay? So the goal is to hear it, learn it, decide if it's for you or not. I don't, like I said, I always say over and over, I am not going to talk you into anything. I will not talk you out of anything.
Right.
So if you want to come to the seminar, but you think no lawyer, I had one guy say, no lawyer is going to give, what's the catch? No lawyer is going to give up 2 hours of his time.
Yeah.
At no cost.
Right.
It's like, well, I don't know, maybe I do things differently, but I have been doing it and it doesn't bother me a bit.
Yeah.
I never even gave it much thought. As that I'm not charging for the time on that.
Yeah.
I stay busy enough, and this is what I found reaches people the most.
Yeah.
These radio shows and those seminars. I don't run ads in paper. I don't.
Well,
don't even have a phone book anymore.
I would imagine that it's fairly rewarding when you've helped someone, plow through these issues.
Oh yeah, and some of the cases we get are very challenging.
Yeah.
Some people have some real issues or problems to solve.
Yeah.
And it weighs heavy on them.
Yeah.
Here's something we see a lot of. Just imagine, and if you're in this boat, I don't say it lightly. I use it as an example because I think it's one. Even if you don't have this problem, you could easily put yourself in that position and see what it'd be like. Mm-hmm. Let's suppose you have an adult child that's got a drug addiction.
Yeah.
Now, I used to practice criminal defense work, right? And when you do criminal defense work, every bit of 50% of what you do is some kind of drug-related problem because we got a plethora of no drug statutes and laws and punishments,
right?
And all the different categories of drugs and class 1 through 6 narcotics. So there's a lot of that. So you can relate to that. Now, if you have a child that is addicted to drugs, and you say, when I pass away, I've got this wealth, whatever that is for you, right? I've got this.
Right.
I got my whole life of wealth.
Yeah.
And maybe I got 3 kids. I'll use my example. So I got 3 kids. But if I leave a third to that child, what's that going to look like? Well, if it's one of these very addictive drugs like cocaine or the methamphetamines or some of the opiates, I mean, it doesn't take a PhD to figure out where that money's going to get spent, right?
Right.
It's going to further the habit. Not only is it going to further the habit, it's going to further the habit to the point where money to buy it's not an object, so you're going to buy more.
Right.
And you will probably be the instrument of that child's destruction.
Yeah.
Can you imagine this? You're passing away, you're doing your kids a favor, you're leaving them all your wealth, and you end up being the instrument of their destruction because of their addiction.
Their addiction.
I mean,
It's a sad tragedy.
No parent wants to do that. So what's your alternative? Well, if you have a will, the alternative is to disinherit them. It's like, well, I don't want to do that either. If the kid wants help, I want the money to be used for rehab if the child decides to rehab.
Right.
But you can't leave it to them and say you can only use it on rehab, because in probate, once you give it to them, it's done. So in a trust, we can put terms and conditions on it, and we can do that. So we can control how it goes. Now, that's the example I use. Every family's got something like that. Sometimes you have here's the things I see a lot. You got a child spendthrift.
Yeah.
It's like, he doesn't have any of these bad habits. He's not. But if I leave it to him, he's just going to blow it. And then somewhere later on in life, when he really needs it, like to make a down payment on a home,
right.
or let's say he is an entrepreneur and he wants to try and start his own business and stuff, he's not going to be there for a good start.
Right.
He will have squandered it.
Right.
So, I love my child, but I know he's going to just squander it.
Right.
Because he's not financially.
Yeah.
We talked about that a couple Fridays ago about, you got to be at least 26 years old to really know how things work. And some people it takes even longer, right?
Yeah.
But, if it's an 18-year-old kid, I mean, maybe yours is financial responsibility.
I'm still learning.
If you got somebody that is, that's great, but you'd be the only one.
Right.
But you can, and so you got to, or you're worried about the marriages of them.
Yeah.
You say, you know what, they married somebody's a gold digger and all they want is to get into the money or something. I don't know. We've seen them. We could write a book. And so there's all kind of things that these are your family dynamics.
Right.
We don't air this when you come to the seminar, of course, but these are the problems you can fix with some of the options that you're going to hear about at these seminars. All this is fixable. We can deal with it. I mean, I can't get your child off drugs, right? I can't make them financially responsible.
Yeah.
But I can make it so that what you're worried about happens, like the person using an inheritance and then on drugs and killing themselves as a result, right?
Right.
Or spending it unfoolishly and stuff like that. We have ways to prevent those things from happening. The problem, the underlying problem, I can't help you with. That'd be great if I could, but we can help it with as far as what they use the inheritance for, and you can put all kinds of terms and conditions on it. You can tighten it up, tight as a tick, or you can be a little more loose with it if you want. It just depends on what the problem we're trying to solve.
Exactly.
And I haven't come across anything yet that we couldn't put in some kind of solution for it. So these are grand options that you probably never heard of before. So when you come and hear them, I guarantee you, you're going to like one of them.
Yeah,
absolutely. Most people do. And that's what the seminars and stuff are all about. It's an awareness, learn it. From my end of it, if you decide to go forward, then I'd like you to do it with me. Then my time is well spent if that's the case. It's in its essence, I guess, it's a marketing technique. But again, what you said earlier about the sense of feeling good, I do. I mean, I got into this because I feel like actually doing something for my clients.
Yeah.
When I was doing criminal defense work, I mean, I was good at it. I'll pat myself on the back. I was a trial attorney.
Yeah.
I was very good at it. I mean, I was an engineer before I went to law school, right, for 20 years. And so as an engineer, you're a stickler for rules, details, procedure. Yeah. And so, I was so good at rules and rules of evidence and rules of procedure that I would be very successful at trials because I could keep my opponent from getting their proof in.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really proving innocence. I was making it hard for them to prove guilt.
Yeah.
Which is what criminal defense work is all about.
Yeah.
And so, but, I'd be honest with you, there were some times where I did my best legal work. I mean, really patted myself on the back, and people said, wow, that was just absolutely brilliant. And 2 weeks later, the person's back in jail. Okay, and it's like, okay, I'm doing this great work, and what is the end result of this? It's just kind of not very rewarding when that happens.
Yeah.
I remember telling one guy, got mad at me. I said, what do you just, I go to visit him at the jail, and I say, I got to ask you something. Do you just like the food here or something? I don't understand. We do all this, and before the ink is even dry on what we just got done doing, here you are again.
You're back
So
again.
how can that? Anyway, so although I loved doing that, it wasn't rewarding.
Yeah.
Or the reward was I had somebody facing 20 years and I got them 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're thanking me, shaking my hand, saying, "Thank you, the greatest." And I'm thinking, really? I mean, that's what we're calling a success story?
Yeah.
I mean, it is because I mitigated, but still. But now I do feel this sense of accomplishment. I have my reviews are great.
Yeah.
People, I got some women that bring me cookies and bread. Got a guy that brings me CBD oil
There you
every
go.
couple of months. And
Yeah.
Just appreciative people.
Yeah.
They write thank you notes. We keep our thank you notes in the office.
Yeah.
We got bunches of them. People just say thanks for explaining all this to me,
Right.
walking through it. That's one of
Right.
the things where I get a lot of feedback is like when we do a trust plan and we talk a lot about it.
Right.
And then when you finally get to the end of it where it's the signing, I sit there and go over each and every document, explain it, and the people appreciate that.
Yeah.
I've had people approach me and say, you could, law firm, what do you call them, business planners or something.
Right.
They say, your time is better spent doing this, that, or the other thing. So you can delegate this signing to your staff, and the people, because you just need to sign it and have it witnessed and notarized and stuff.
Right.
And I said, I could, but I have a real connection with these clients as I sit down and explain to them each and
Right.
every document and go over. And I get a lot of feedback from that. And that's right. It's an hour every time we do that.
Yeah.
And but I'm not giving that up because that's where I really connect with them.
Right.
And that they appreciate that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I
think
don't
so,
think anybody
too.
appreciates being shuffled off to an assistant.
Yeah.
Now, my assistants are all great.
Yeah.
But that's an area where I'm just going to keep doing it. It's not, they say, well, it's not efficient use of your time. It's like, well, it's a good use of my time as far
Yeah.
as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who has to go to sleep at night with it. So I'm
Yeah.
more than happy to do that.
Well, I think too, like you said, when you do make that connection with your clients, there's just something about that has value beyond, an hourly wage or an hourly fee.
I just got a few minutes, but I'm going to tell a story. Had a seminar one day. I think it was in Plasky at the Star Theater, and this older couple
Yeah.
came, real nice couple people, and they caught me afterward, and they said they signed up for one of my seminars. I mean, they signed up for one of my meetings, one of my vision meetings
Yes.
after the seminar, and they said she was the one who did all the talking. She said, I want to tell you something. She said, you're the 5th attorney we've gone to on this.
Yeah.
She said, we've gone to 4 attorneys, and each time I would say something like, can I just meet the attorney? I want to spend 5 or 10 minutes with him to see who it is we're hiring, whether I like him or not.
Right.
And I said, every single time they shuffle you off, hand you an intake sheet, say, fill all this out, and it's got all this intrusive asset and income information and debts that you have. It looks like a financial statement.
Right.
Fill all this out, and then we'll set an appointment. And so she said, she told him, she said, I just want to talk to him. An elderly gal, she's
Yeah.
old school.
Yeah.
I just want to talk to him to see. Never could get that. She says, we have the ability to pay. I want to do estate planning. We've got a pretty good estate. I've got the ability to pay. I just want to meet the attorney.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty unreasonable of a request, doesn't it? I mean, I'm being cynical, right?
Yeah.
And she's not asking for much, I bet you if somebody popped out of their office and talked to her for 5 minutes in the hallway, that would have done it. You know what I mean? But she couldn't get it. And she told me that. And she said, we're going to give you a try because you have this seminar, and I'm talking to you now.
Right.
And I did. And so they came, and she made the decision. She wanted to make a decision whether she wanted to work with this attorney.
Yeah.
And so she did, and we ended up doing a plan with them. And she made a big point of the fact. She said, we drove, I can't remember what she said, 110 miles to be here.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to drive 110 miles back. And I set up an appointment with you on such and such a month, and we're going to drive 110 miles down here again and then back again. And
Yeah.
she said, and I'm going to do that because I can't find anybody that will take me on as a client without at least letting me know who they are.
Yeah.
And I thought
That's interesting.
That was very interesting, and it's exactly the opposite of what I do. I mean, you want to come talk to me? Talk to me. You want to call me? I mean, we say on this radio show all the time,
Right.
call me. The only thing I can't do is drop what I'm doing just to answer your phone call sometimes. But I will always we'll schedule the phone call.
Right.
So you call with a question, Alex or Tammy or Courtney will write down the answer.
Yeah.
I mean the question, and they'll give it to me, or they'll say, okay, he'll call you back at 4:15 this afternoon.
Yeah.
And then I'll look at the question and I'll call you, and we'll do it that way. And I don't, I give the time freely. I really don't. I don't send a bill for it.
Well, Stan, you've done a good job of making it easy for someone to just get their questions answered or get good information. Number one, the seminars, and it's there for you, free of charge.
Sure.
And you got one coming up. We got a few minutes left. I didn't know if you want to review that again or not.
I will. LB came to one.
He did. That's right.
Him and his wife came to one, and he could tell you about it. Jeff. Let's see. I don't think Jeff came to one, but he had a good friend that came to one. And as he was leaving, he called Jeff, and he says, "I just went to that guy's seminar." He said, "I want to tell you what." He said, "My head's about to explode." He said, "I've never got so much good information in such a short period of time."
Yeah.
He just said he just thought it was excellent. So, and that's the most response most people get. But yes, we March the 22nd. Now that's 2 weeks from tomorrow because it's a Saturday.
Right.
And our Saturday seminars we always do at 10 o'clock in the morning, and this one is called Wills, Trust, in the Nursing Home. Okay, and that's what we talk about.
Right.
And typically it runs about an hour and 15 minutes long. Then we have this open-ended Q&A. I'll stay as long as I need to answer any and all questions.
Yeah.
And I'll be the last one out the door after all the questions have been answered. So sometimes I'm there till pushing 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
But this one's going to be in Pulaski at the American Legion. It's right. My office is on the square. It's just a couple blocks off the square. The physical address is 416 Legion Drive in Pulaski.
Yeah.
Just call my office at Pierchoski Estate Law, Pierchoski Elder Law at 931-363-7222, or go to my website, estateplanstand.com, and give us an RSVP that you're coming or how many are coming. Just say, hey, my name is Smith, two people are coming. And so we have a head count, and that's pretty loose RSVP. And if you can't make it, you can't make it. But if you can't commit to it at the last minute, Friday night or Saturday morning, you say, you know what, let's go to that seminar. Just come on and walk in. Don't feel like, well, we didn't sign up for it. It's not. It's loosey goosey. Just head count is so Miss Tammy knows how many muffins to make. So just pop in. We'll have room for you.
Probably worth it for just a muffin.
We got some people that come to it just for the muffins when they're in town.
363-7222, estateplanstand.com. And, of course, he invites you to call the office over there anytime. They're located in Pulaski, Tennessee, on the historic square there in Pulaski, right next to the Star Theater. And I know you involved with that as well. So, anyway. Something coming up?
Last night was the opening of Finding Nemo Kids version.
Oh, yeah.
And the one in production is called Wrinkle in Time. I don't know the show dates just yet, but
Wrinkle in Time. That ought to be good.
Yeah, there's a movie like that.
Yeah, there sure is. All right. Well, God bless, buddy. See you next week.
Always a pleasure, Jeff.
This is WDXE, W287AA, and W237FD Lawrenceburg. Broadcast services of Prospect Communications.
It'd be a terrible thing.